The OpenAI board fired Altman,
which is the maker of ChatGPT.
I had no encounter with AI.
This sounds scary.
Until my first conversation with Sam Altman.
Let's go back to 2011.
I'm here with Sam Altman.
This is Sam Altman at South by Southwest, wearing his company's t-shirt.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. I was trying to think back.
Pitching his latest desperate pivot.
We're launching a new product around flash deals at South by Southwest.
Now, in 2024, Jeffrey Hinton, Nobel laureate, guy who gets oversimplistic and reductive intros on 60 Minutes.
Hinton has been called the godfather of AI.
He says,
I'm particularly proud of the fact that one of my students fired Sam Altman.
How did Sam Altman go from desperate salesman to Oprah's designated boy king?
Just take me to 2035.
I hope that in 10 years, all of us, we are limited by what we can imagine.
The CEO of OpenAI with a $150 billion valuation. How did he become the walking avatar of ChatGPT? I don't think you can understand the OpenAI drama.
Chaotic and shameful.
Without looking at Sam Altman, propping up his webcam in the early 2000s.
And I'm here with
Sam Altman.
Putting his app on flip phones. I think the context and a few key video clips give you what you need to understand Sam Altman. And they pose a couple more questions too. Will he become the most powerful person in the world? And should we let it happen? Do you know how important it is to have a spiral notebook?
You definitely want a spiral notebook because one thing that's important is you can rip pages out frequently. And you also want it to lie like flat and open on the table.
This clip is the most animated and specific that Sam Altman has been in the past few years.
The Uniball Micro 0.5 pen is the best pen overall.
And I think it is fascinating.
Definitely want to be able to like rip pages out.
And then he slips and admits that he just throws the pages on the floor so that his housekeepers can clean them up.
When our house cleaner comes in on like a, whatever, there's just these pile of crumpled papers that I'm like, type my notes in or whatever on the floor.
Kudos to David for getting this out of him because normally this guy is cryptic and reserved. And, part of that is because the questions are like all asked in stoned mode.
What have you done?
Like ever?
Or he is just super guarded. And I say super guarded for a reason.
Super successful.
Super complicated.
Super optimistic.
Super productive for 8 hours in a row.
But I think to understand Sam Altman, you've got to have bigger context than his tenure as the CEO of OpenAI.
I'd like to invite up Sam Altman. Sam?
This is Sam Altman at WWDC 2008, Apple's developer event. He's 23.
Loopt is about connecting with people on the go, which is, after all, the main reason you have a phone.
Now, I'm going to leave out most of the personal stuff from this video. You'll see why in a little bit, but I'm going to say one thing. Go ahead and look at his shirts. Yes, that's shirts with a plural. I am not going to insult the double collar. I'm going to stand by it. Let's go. Boom. I think it looks pretty good. It's got some panache.
We show you where people are, what they're doing, and what cool places are around you. The orange pin up there is where I am right now, and the blue pins represent my friends.
Here's the old post from TechCrunch, the industry Bible at the time. Loopt launched in 2006 to make mobile presence usable as part of a startup incubator called Y Combinator. A lot more on that later. And Altman dropped out of Stanford to make it happen. Loopt started on older style phones, and it looked like this. And there was Sam Altman in the comments defending how he wanted to protect the privacy and safety of our users. I think you can learn a lot about Altman from Loopt. Altman was targeting a big exponential curve, a move to mobile.
I think further out into the future than most people do, and I think I appreciate exponential curves more than most people do.
Loopt was crossing a line. Look at the comments on TechCrunch. These were bleeding edge people, but they were still skeptical. Big brother is the least of your worries. You'd be better paying attention to all the little brothers. LOL. And 3, Loopt is a deal maker's business, not really a tech business. Phew. Okay, so diving into this topic, I've had to learn a lot really quickly, and that is where ground news has become invaluable to me. I'm so glad to be partnering up with them on today's video. Ground News is an app and a website. They get news-related articles to create story overviews on any topic across the world and political spectrum so that readers can learn about any issue from all sides. You can see that each story has context on each source's political bias, the credibility and factuality, and the ownership, and it's got a quick summary of the bias on each side. And all these ratings are backed by 3 independent news monitoring sources. I'm gonna go ahead and screen grab this. You can see a great example here. This story about OpenAI's O1 model, it's like a more reasoning advanced model, and it has some big differences between the left and the right coverage. In the bias comparison right here, I can see that the left is really emphasizing the model's human-like thinking and OpenAI's ambition, whereas on the right here, they're talking about practical applications and stuff like that. And you can see that the headlines are pretty different. CNN says, ChatGPT maker says its AI model can reason and think much like a person, whereas on the right, the Washington Times is saying that security questions linger. So if a more balanced news diet is of interest to you, go to ground.news/Phil Edwards to get 50% off the unlimited access Vantage plan. That's what I have. And thank you to Ground News for supporting this video and allowing me to stay up on the news as it happens.
For 3.
Location plus a contact list and information about cool places means you never have to eat lunch alone again or at a bad place. And we think that's really cool. We really do.
Now, I want to be careful here. I wouldn't be surprised if in 2006, Altman was the best coder in any room that he entered. However, the service was launched by partnering with Boost Mobile. He talked his way onto that Apple stage at WWDC. And then he strove to talk his way into other partnership platforms. But people just didn't want Loopt.
The co-founder of Y Combinator program.
His investor, Paul Graham, later said,
people didn't want to broadcast their locations. People want to consume location, but they don't want to supply it.
I want to be gentle on how bad of an idea Loopt was. Who knew what people would want that early?
How do you win in the all about location business?
Yeah, it's a lot of different pieces come together.
That didn't matter though. Altman willed it into being a success. By 2010, Loopt had hit 4 million users, but it was clearly a misfire. People just didn't want loose location tracking. He pitched it as a cool iPad app.
It's a beautiful device, but it's kind of big and kind of heavy, and it would be sort of tough to put in your pocket.
You guys are a launch partner for some of these new mobile goodies that Facebook was announcing today.
This Groupon thing could really be a game changer for you guys, I'm guessing.
It's early, but it looks really promising.
But he was also developing a philosophy of startups. You can see it in this video.
So, good morning.
Which was apparently filmed with a potato, but the takeaways are clear.
If you can understand what the product should be and how to build it, like, you are a force to be reckoned with. Relationships at a really high level matter. Press matters. These guys read the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. But a compelling product where you do most of the work and they kind of just like turn you on and market you is very appealing.
Loopt was acquired in 2012 for $43 million, but it was as much of a mess as a $43 million sale could be. They had raised $17 million, and it was probably a patent play that got them finally sold. They sold Loopt to a low-end banking company. The boy wonder had made Loopt succeed through sheer force of will. But what's just as important is where he was giving that speech, in the pink polo.
Thank you.
It was for Y Combinator. You can't understand Sam Altman without understanding Y Combinator. The idea behind Y Combinator was pretty simple in the beginning. It was like a 3-month summer job. You'd get $6,000 a founder and trade a small amount of equity. This is Paul Graham, co-founder of Y Combinator, with Jessica Livingston. They got married in 2008. Graham is well known for the essays on his blog, but I want to underscore his personality.
When one thinks of what Microsoft does to users, all the verbs that come to mind begin with F, like frustrate and foist.
He and Livingston, they're both funny, they're affable. He's like a human.
Who are you? All right, Paul Graham. Pleased to meet you.
The first batch was amazing. It included Reddit, the future founders of Twitch, and Sam Altman. And Paul Graham and Sam Altman, they started to really think in sync.
We have to sit up straight. We have lower seats. This is not right.
I think this is the hardest thing about understanding Altman if you don't know his history. You see Graham and he is a little nerdy, but he is like funny and sociable, and you can understand him as a connected investor. Then you have Sam, who you kind of pattern match as more the tech guy. I mean, he's very skinny, he doesn't laugh a lot, he doesn't really talk in stories, he's kind of like an AI. But that is not at all the case. You can see the differences and similarities here when Altman and Graham are on a stage together in 2013. Here Paul makes a little joke.
See, you idiots in the government, you are actually slowing down innovation.
And then Sam waits for the laughter to stop so he can ask a real question.
How much do you make?
So even while Loopt is failing, Paul Graham is going nuts for Sam Altman. In 2006, he writes, so this is what Bill Gates must have been like when he was 19. In 2007, he says, Sam Altman, however, is an outlying data point. When he was 19, he seemed like he had a 40-year-old inside him. There are other 19-year-olds who are 12 inside. In 2009, he put Sam on a list with Steve Jobs. On questions of strategy or ambition, I ask, what would Sam A do? There are few people with such force of will that they're going to get whatever they want. In 2014, Graham made Altman the new head of Y Combinator.
He is going to be the boss. I'm not running the show anymore. It's Sam's show now.
They were seeking to grow Y Combinator along that exponential curve and push the line for what they'd invest in, including research and big swings. Look at this chart of Y Combinator batch size, the number of companies that are in each Y Combinator class. Here's when Altman takes over. If you look at a list of the 100 largest YC companies by funding, it's staggering that number 100 still brought in 68 million. And I think it's here that you can really see how Altman's skill is as a master deal maker and kind of pitcher of ideas. There's this weird event that happened when he went on stage. It's almost like improv comedy.
All right, so I have, that was the first time I met Jenna and heard about the business.
With a bunch of founders. They would pitch their idea, and then Altman would repackage it with his own version of the pitch.
So I'm Jenna, I'm from ShipperMax.
Hey Paul, I'm Sam from ShipperMax.
And we help agricultural, energy, and mining companies hire ships.
We are building a marketplace for shipping. Shipping is still 9% of world GDP. It's one of the biggest markets people don't think about.
He's not contemplating or philosophizing during this presentation. He is selling. And he has heard thousands of pitches to learn just the right way to do it. Along the way, he became this node at the center of almost every Silicon Valley company. And then he decided to turn the page. This is an email from 2015 from Sam Altman to Elon Musk. Been thinking a lot about whether it's possible to stop humanity from developing AI. I think the answer is almost definitely not. If it's going to happen anyway, it seems like it would be good for someone other than Google to do it first. Altman sent that just a few days after it leaked that Musk had nightmares about a Google robot army. This is a perfectly timed pitch, and it's not a coincidence. Probably worth a conversation, Musk replied. This is the seed of OpenAI. We have those emails because they showed up in a subsequent lawsuit. This is the beginning of Altman's attempt to be both a mega mogul and a tech saint. Originally, it was called YCAI, YC for Y Combinator. OpenAI began as a nonprofit in December of that year, and Altman and Musk started showing up together.
I think the AI question is likely to become pressing and important to deal with before we can establish a full colony on Mars.
That's true.
The ideas would be shared with the world. It was largely led by the computer science duo of Ilya Sutskever and Greg Brockman, but they were doing totally different stuff than ChatGPT. The focus was on stuff like making robot hands or playing the game Dota. Altman's earlier writing from 2014 is similarly not prescient. To me, this is a sign that we don't necessarily have a tech visionary in Altman. We do have a deal maker and exponential curve visionary who will stop at nothing to fulfill both roles.
I am not a warm fuzzy boss.
He quickly forges a relationship with Microsoft while still at Y Combinator, and he sees an exponential curve in the possible growth of AI. This begins a new period in which he poses himself as a kind of tech saint. He starts a very Musk-like voting initiative in which prizes are given out. He considers a run for governor, and he funds a study of universal basic income to give money to people. Musk and Altman basically battled for control of the company in 2018 as it became clear that AI would need massive amounts of money to work, to run the computers. Musk essentially lost. Musk sued him over this, but to me it kind of feels like sour grapes, like Musk got played. And after this point, everything feels almost inevitable as Altman reshaped OpenAI to be his organization. By 2019, GPT-2 launched, and it was clear that the days of Dota and robot hands were over. AI might actually work in this new paradigm. He finally had a winner on his hands, and he's definitely smart enough to recognize it. He quickly left Y Combinator because Graham told him he couldn't lead both organizations. Within days, OpenAI had a capped for-profit arm, and Altman moved his investments to companies that he controlled. ChatGPT launched in November 2022, and it matched a great product to OpenAI's tech. In 2023, Altman tweeted, "I failed pretty hard at my first startup. It sucked, and I'm doing pretty well on my second." November 2023, the OpenAI apocalypse happened.
It appears there's a major disagreement between where OpenAI was going and where Sam Altman may have wanted to take it.
The OpenAI board offered a statement over the weekend that said Altman was not transparent with them, but offered no other details.
They did fire him, it just didn't last very long.
Sam Altman will now officially return as CEO.
There were more key departures the next year as the mission changed, but that didn't stop Altman from securing power. And in September 2024, Reuters reported that OpenAI would restructure into a for-profit corporation. I think Sam Altman is so fascinating because he has a cryptic public persona. It makes you want to know what's going on in his head, but I think you have to look at his actions and at his repeated omissions of the truth. Watch Joe Rogan ask him about Elon Musk's attempts to pause AI.
What do you think about when Elon was calling for a pause on AI?
Altman lets his honest response slip out.
He was starting an AGI company while he was doing that.
But then he kind of figures out that Joe Rogan doesn't know that Elon Musk has sued Altman.
I think the instinct of saying, we've really got to figure out how to...
So he didn't bring it up at all. He skirts the issue.
Make this safe and good, and widely good, is really important.
He is so secretive that we want to imagine his motives. Is he a boy wonder, a mega mogul, a tech saint? The truth could be that he's maybe all of these things, but scrambled up. Or maybe he's a black box. We can't know if he wants to be the first trillionaire, or if he wants to save the world, or both. All we can do is look at his actions, because he's not transparent. Look at that notebook video again. It's a lighthearted moment, but did you notice that the pages on that notebook are blurred out? He wants to hide something from us, and we are left to ask if we're the housekeeper cleaning up his bad ideas, or maybe we are the crumpled up pages. I want to push that we can't know Altman's motives. He publicly says that he wants to pursue AGI to make the world a better place, and he says that he wants to do it as safely as possible. And we don't know the truth. And, I came away liking this pitching, dealing person that I ran into. However, I think that we have to look at his actions.
I can't recall when we've had people representing large corporations or private sector entities come before us and plead with us to regulate them.
I'd love to collaborate with you to figure it out. I do think for a very new technology, we need a new framework.
Should we trust him? Or is it another strategy to make OpenAI bigger? We should do it in a way where it is not a single for-profit company with a single AI that controls the world and hopefully doesn't go off the rails, but a widely distributed AI, where each human has an agent that becomes part of them to some degree, and we sort of try to just distribute this power and make all the humans better. But don't take my word for it. I'm just a guy wearing 2 shirts. That's a quote.
And try to do that in a way where it is not a single for-profit company with a single AI that controls the world and hopefully doesn't go off the rails, but a widely distributed AI where each human has an agent that becomes part of them to some degree. And we sort of try to just distribute this power and make all the humans better. And it's super exciting to work on.
Hey, that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching and being here. I've got links to my many sources and many videos and interviews that I got to peruse for this. That's down in the description. I also have a newsletter that is out on Patreon. This is a free thing that I do. I publish it with every video so that you can know when there's a new video out. And you can also get an extra article that has some depth that I couldn't get into in the video proper. This week, it is about my favorite sources for AI that won't make you dumb. If it isn't obvious from this video, I think a lot of the AI coverage is really bad.
What is your favorite Taylor Swift song?
That is a hard question. Wildest Dreams.
Okay.
I developed this opinion when I was reporting on AI a year or so ago, and I discovered that everyone was missing the story. Fortunately, along the way, after talking to these computer scientists, hearing their favorite things, and just kind of being a fan of the industry myself, I was able to pick up some sources that I think are really good. And you'll be able to find those in the newsletter and some of my frustrations and observations based on my reporting of what has annoyed me about AI coverage in the past. So please go check that out and subscribe if you want. Otherwise, if you haven't been here before, this is a channel where I do, business history, tech history, stuff like that, and figure out how it affects the world we are in today. And I believe that that context is invaluable for understanding what is going on. So thanks for being here, and I will see you in the next one.